Welcome to your show, The Underrail Road. That show occurs every Saturday at 10:30 p.m. on Channel 19. Your host is Clifton Rahim Bradley. However, today we are live. So I want to encourage our audience to go ahead, grab that phone and call us to open it up for a dialogue. I am your host, Dalia Tapia. Our topic today is about our upcoming election. We have a debate between Trump and Biden. However, we also have independent candidates, such as Jill Stein, Robert Kennedy, and Cornel West. Our guest today, we have Minister Ben Willis, and we will be discussing a little bit about the position or the situation of our Black community as far as the elections. And we're going to start from the history. How about let's go ahead and talk about Abraham Lincoln. So, the Emancipation Proclamation, freedom, Republican. Did our Black community voted Republican then? What would you say?
Well, the United States of America was Republican anyway. And of course, to the republic in which it stands, one nation under God, is a Republican anyway. So the Black community was on the Republican side. When they went to the voting to go vote, the Democrats were the Democrats were forcing Black people at that particular time to vote Democrat, or they would kill them and hang them. That's historical. So everybody was voting Republic. And Democrats now are predominantly Black. They vote that way, not because of Democrats doing well by Black people. It was because they were forced to do that. That's the historical fact in that. So, and we talk about the Emancipation Proclamation, but Abraham Lincoln, not too long ago, was Juneteenth. So we dealt with that. And Abraham Lincoln, if it was up to him, he said that he would keep the slaves, but he had the pressure.
So he did it just to keep the Union together, not necessarily because he wanted freedom for our Black community, right?
No, that was not in his interest.
And you know what? I want to share this, that I currently, not that long ago, I was in Washington, D.C., and I found out that many of our representatives, their ancestors were slave owners.
Sure.
And so that's something that still to this day we have not yet addressed,
Right.
And that we as a country across the nation, we need to start having that dialogue, that discussion of where do we stand, no matter our color, no matter our religion, and what is happening as far as our leaders. Are they really representing the people?
Who voted people as leaders? One thing with me, when I do hear this all the time, the Black leaders, I never got that ballot to vote for a Black leader. I don't even know who a Black leader is. I don't even know why he is. Where's the Chinese leader? Who's the Chinese leader? When we start talking about Democrat and Republican, I never see no Asians out there saying get out and vote. Who? All they do is build economic base. That's what they deal with, is economics.
Yes.
So the thing is, and like you say, you were in D.C., that all those buildings that you see built in D.C. were built by Black people who were Moors. You see the shape of the temple, and you shape the tape of the pyramids, and that's what's looked at in the knowledge. And then protesting. Well, how does that work? Because I've been seeing people protest, especially Black people protest all their lives.
Right.
Martin Luther King was protesting, and then he came to the realization, he said, I think I've been leading my people into a burning building. So that's not working. He had a dream, but it's still Black people's nightmare right now.
Mm-hmm. So what should be happening?
In the Black community, I think you should build economics. When you build economics, then you build power. Then you have a say-so. Then you're able to come through the door. And that's what it's all about, mainly, is money.
Right,
Poor
right.
people can't. Don't. Poor people don't have a vote, a vote or a voice. They don't.
Okay, so economics. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that further. What should be happening so that the black community actually gets to that point?
Well, you can use an example as the community in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1920.
Yes.
Black Wall Street, where they had transportation businesses, they had a bus system, they had warehouses, they had clothing stores, they had car dealerships, they had all of that stuff that they were building within its own self, not asking anybody for anything else, until racist whites was jealous of that, didn't like it, burned the place up. Over 300 black people got killed, and they wanted to put fear in a lot of other people that thought about doing the same thing, doing the same thing. So I look at that, and that becomes a threat. So if I can get you to not think on the way of economics, then I have you asking me, and you got to depend on me instead of doing for yourself.
Now, question: were those behind the sabotage of that community Republicans or Democrats or both? What would you say?
I would say Republicans and Democrats are on the same bird on different wings and flying in the same direction. That's my opinion.
Yes. Well, I mean, it definitely, that's one of our next questions. So when did the black community start leaving the Republican Party after because we mentioned about Lincoln, so we started from there. When did they start leaving?
Once they start getting slaughtered and getting killed and getting hung for voting Republican, that's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. There was nothing special that any party did to, and still not for black people. Mm-hmm. It's still a separation.
Okay.
And that's just a fact.
Yeah, and then I as I mentioned earlier on, as we were starting our conversation, to this day, across the whole nation, we do not have health care.
Oh yeah, no.
Because I think that's a strategy that some people are utilizing of putting us against each other.
Sure. Yeah.
So what can you tell us about that?
Well, it comes down to the same adage: divide and conquer. So now you come on the class level, high class, middle, lower class, people that don't have anything. People are dying because they just can't get proper health care. What a travesty as far as wealthy as this country is, that you're gonna die because you can't get proper health care.
Yeah.
And when you deal with health, money, and food, you got control over everything. You got control over a human being. Anything that's living, you got control over that.
I would add to that also communications, media, because it's such a powerful way to manipulate people. And
Sure.
I think they utilize our media a lot to put us against each other when we all across the nation, no matter white, black, Latino, Asian, we all have the same needs. We all have the need for health care. We all have the need for education. And
Sure.
I've traveled to so many countries across the world, and being our country to this day, we do not have it.
Right.
And yet our politicians have the money right away to send weapons.
Yes.
And it's just, to me, where I want to encourage our callers to go ahead, our viewers to go ahead and call, because I want to know, no matter where you are, these are essential needs. You mentioned, the food, you mentioned economics,
Yes.
you mentioned
Healthcare.
healthcare,
Yes.
education, and I added to that the communication, which is media.
Yeah.
And what are we doing to break away from the stereotypes and from that pattern of putting us against each other?
But when you talked about the communication, that's getting information out there. So now you can paint a narrative and spin it, because national media are spin doctors, and they can spin it, and then they'll pit people against each other.
Exactly.
While they're doing this. They can say, "Look up, and we're down here doing everything that we need to do, and that's what we have here. That's what we have.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
I believe we have a caller, so maybe with a question or a comment.
Okay.
And again, this is a platform to open it for dialogue.
Sure.
And I would love to hear. I mean, do we have a caller? No. Okay, so at this point, okay, I guess we don't. Let's go ahead and continue. So, as we were talking about pitting us against each other,
sure.
our communities, for example, Chicago,
Yeah.
Texas, very segregated.
Oh, the most segregated city in the United States is Chicago.
So the most segregated city. Okay, so we do have a caller.
Why is it that it appears like a lot of blacks are going to vote for Donald Trump? Do you think they're voting against their best interests? Because Joe Biden is losing his faculties. Trump said world leaders are laughing and taking advantage of it. Please address that.
Okay, so pretty much the question is, can you go ahead and repeat the question one more time? Oh, okay. All right. So pretty much it's as far as Donald Trump coming up. What do you think?
Well, I think it's if we look at the contest between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, of course Donald Trump is just it's not going to even be close. It's not going to even be close. And like the caller said, Joe Biden is losing his faculties and things like that for whatever particular reason it is, and that's a fact. And so Donald Trump is just doing what he does. I mean, he's not a politician. He's just doing what he does. Is black people going to vote for him? I don't think so. I doubt it. I don't. For me, taking that stand, and it's me personally, I think black people should build economics. I think that you should work on your money, because putting any kind of faith, anything else, as long as I've been alive, and I've been around since the Eisenhowers and the Kennedys and and all of those, and black people have been catching hell ever since I can remember. So it didn't matter who was in office. It did not matter. And we're still catching it right now. That's just my opinion.
No, and that's my next question. Have also the Democrats been misusing the black community, or have been taking advantage of it too?
Most people come in and misuse the black community. Not only do politicians come in and use the black community, business people come in and use the black community. In fact, there's more immigrant stores in black communities. They're right there. And they usurp all the money that they get out of there. The black community spends $1.4 trillion a year. $1.4 trillion the black community spends. You have all kinds of stores in the black community with inferior foods and everything else. And then they come in the communities and just put anything in there, put everything, inferior food, alcohol, they put drugs and stuff in the community, and that's what they do, and have sex with young girls. That's what they do. And that's what happens. And no politicians are saying anything about that. Not even no clergy are saying anything about that. And also when you have the clergies coming around to campaign, they go into black churches. They go into black churches and they talk to the preachers and the pastors that's in there, and the pastors on the faith-based initiative program, so they're gonna get some crumbs off the table so they can get out there and start talking about and campaigning about what the community ain't gonna get. And you're going to go into church, but you don't go in there after campaign season. In fact, that I can remember, Jesus was against and fought with politicians. So sometimes it looks like it's a dog and pony show. That's just my opinion.
No, and I would like to, let's keep discussing this, because you mentioned what is happening in the black community. So the drugs, all this alcohol and all of that. So what are our leaders? And also too, is our black community holding them accountable for doing changes? Because somebody's behind all this as well too.
Sure. Well, who's behind it. I mean, the powers that be is behind it. But I don't. I'm speaking from my point of view. I don't need nobody to be my leader. I know how to take care of my own household. See, I take care of my own household. I don't need you. You know, I don't need you. I can govern my own self. I can govern my family, my children. You know, I can do that. So, waiting and putting faith in a politician or something like that, that didn't work.
Mm-hmm. I think we have a caller, and then after that, the call, I want us to come back to the role of our black men in the community. Okay,
sure.
Let's go ahead and take the call. Go ahead.
Yes, I have very interesting show, but I'd like to ask you, Minister Ben, you don't think that Donald Trump is going to make America great again? You don't think that Joe Biden is losing his faculties and world leaders are just laughing like Xi and Putin, they're laughing? I mean, a lot of blacks are going to vote for Donald Trump. Well, I mean, please expand on that.
Okay. Joe Biden is, he's coming apart, as we all have seen all the different excerpts about him. Donald Trump said, would think that the world is laughing. I think the world is laughing at Donald Trump because he's partnered with Putin, President Putin of Russia. As far as I can remember, the United States and Russia has always been on total ends of the spectrum. You know, Russia be over here looking at the United States, and the United States is looking at Russia. We've never joined together with Russia, never. All the presidents with Nikita Khrushchev and Gorbachev and Brezhnev, never we was ever friends. But the reason why that Donald Trump, and you can do the research, the reason why that Donald Trump is partying and friends with Putin is because they call Donald Trump in a hotel room with women. Golden showers, I'm just being political, I'll be politically correct, say golden showers, but if I'm going to be myself, say he's pissing on, and that's why he's friends with him. And he also became friends with Kim Jong-un also. Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to share a little bit of my travels though, and also when we're not in the U.S., I got to share this to our audience. We get different news.
Yes.
Because we were talking about the powers, the control and community. I think behind all this, there's also very much powerful people that put us against each other, that have strategies. And I got to share that there was a peace agreement and all of this Ukraine thing, Putin thing, right. There were peace agreements. Mm-hmm. There were news in other parts of the world, but right. Not necessarily to the American people. Right. I don't have, like I said, I also know that in Tucker Carlson, he interviewed Putin, right. And there was a lengthy, and I just got to see another time the whole interview, and the fact that at one point Putin did ask Clinton, can I join NATO?
Right.
So I was in Kiev too. Mm-hmm. I was in Kiev a while ago, and bottom line, I mean, Russia, they had everything, you know, so not necessarily, I don't think, from my point of view, and what I did see in the news outside of the U.S., which right here in our country, it's very much controlled. Yes. I mean, just, you know, it is very much controlled.
Yes.
And I would love for our people to go outside and actually really explore the world.
That's it.
Because the news was different, and that's one of the reasons why I like to hear Republicans, Democrats, Green, Independent. I don't care. I want to learn. I want to know more and get to become better knowledgeable about the roots of things and how to improve things. Right. Now, going back to Putin, one of the things that when he did ask Clinton, you know, Clinton said, "Okay, give me wait for me." And then my understanding is that it was a no. And now I also understand that the powers, that means also the military complex.
Yes.
Making money and money. The way I see it, Americans, we are their slaves, all Americans.
Oh, sure.
Because they keep on sending our tax money, but where is our health care? Where is our education, universal, and pitting us against each other?
Sure.
And then that's some of the things that we need to overcome and break apart from those stereotypes and challenge ourselves and challenge our communities and across the country. I was listening to a white brother who was struggling. He has a business, a painting business.
Right.
But he's not making it through.
No.
So that's where I find it that we need to stand up and now make our representatives accountable. Because this election, I'm not for Trump. I'm not for Biden. I'm actually, that's it. I'm the solution with both parties.
Yeah, me too.
I am definitely, I'm going different.
You're right.
I'm going in a different route. And I'm not going to share with the audience, but I want people to go out and beyond what our general media tells us and puts in our brain. And it's like, go out and explore.
Exactly.
And that is one of the reasons that they wanted to take out TikTok.
Yeah, right.
That was one of the reasons, because finally our communities are being exposed to others. And you mentioned economic empowerment.
Yes.
Can you imagine? And let's go back to the topic that I mentioned.
Right.
The role of our black men. What is going on? Because my perception, and this is just personal, I think strategically it has been torn apart from the family.
Yeah.
So what should be happening?
Right now, when you can, I could go by an old, by the biblical standpoint of Moses, when they were talking about Pharaoh, it says, kill all the men and let the women folk live. So you chop the head off of anything, it's gonna die. And so the head of, just say the black community, is the male. That's the head. So if I can introduce you to things that were, I can remember in the 60s when you had all these black organizations. They were up and they were going, and things were moving forward. The Black Panther Party, the D-Mau Mau's, a lot of different organizations, and then they put drugs in there. In the late 60s and 67 and 68, LSD, Purple Haze, and now it's a Feel Good and the hippies and flower power and all that kind of stuff, and that smooths everything out. So when you do stuff like that, now they have ecstasy, drugs, a lot of alcohol everywhere now, and you can put that stuff out there, and now you get these people and they're losing their doggone minds. In fact, you can, now that the weed, that you can smoke the weed and everything, it has a overabundance of chemicals in there. They found there's a lot of levels of estrogen in there. And so now you put levels of estrogen in stuff and you put it in the males, now he want to be a female.
Oh, let's do.
And so now they want to smoke with other guys. So they're not going to stand up for anything. They're out of their minds now. Mm-hmm. So all these different things are attacking these young fellas. And so, and then you separate the elders against the youth, then you can divide it. And I'm the one, I fight against that. That's what I do.
I agree. And there's a lot of distortions in our black communities as far as, like you mentioned, alcohol, the drugs, mm-hmm. the distortions of, okay, so you want to be with another man, and it's like, wait a minute. And I find it because of the fact that, there's a lot of trauma undealt with.
Sure.
And I believe it's also introduced so that, again, breaking apart that family structure.
Exactly.
And some people can agree, we can agree to disagree.
Right.
And again, I am not God to say this is good, this is bad,
right.
But I can definitely tell stories of personal men coming to me and telling me of what traumas they experienced.
Sure.
So there's distortions in their view about their sexuality, and it's like, it's sad because what male is going to come and say this happened to me and therefore this is all, mm-hmm. I have this tendency. So I am not one to judge, but at the same time, I can see where the community and the families are so falling apart. And they've tried the same thing in the Latino community.
Sure.
However, in the Latino community, there's something very strong You hold together no matter what. And your parents don't want you to leave your house. And even if you are 20, 30, 40, 50, they don't want you to leave your house.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's like that's something that comes within their culture. I don't.
Well, I think I think that what I'm talking about as far as there's a constant battle to separate black people. Now, the majority of black people are together. Men are being men. They're standing up. There's a few, they're not the majority, those who are weakened. I'm talking about those who are weakened, and they're weakened in all different races. But as far as in the black community, there are males that are taking care of their business. They're billionaires in the United States, black men and women. Doing things. I mean, running corporations, doing those types of things. But if you separate the youth and the elders, and they don't want to listen, then you look at them and you highlight them, which are the minority, because that's not the majority. So that's where it comes with the communication and the media that spin a narrative on that. When they spin the narrative, everybody think that. So what happens is, when other people come from other countries, because they come over here to America for a better life, because life wasn't good for them in another country. So they come over here, and then what they do is they stand on black people's necks here, because they're a friend of mine came here from Kenya.
Kenya, okay. I was just in Kenya, by the way.
Yeah, came from Kenya and stated that when they was going through immigration, they had to sit down in the classroom and they told them, look at the black people, they steal, they do this, they do that. So they came here with really, that's what they do? That's the narrative that's painted. Even though the American culture is built by black people. This country is built by black people. This culture that we have here in America that everybody wants to come to is built by black people. See, and that's done, and that has always been a problem. There's always been a problem that here black people that were Africans came here and was taken from Africa and came here and became Negroes because other people had part of the slave trade, and that's what they became. And so now, and then you work for 400 plus years, you get a 400-year start on building Washington, D.C. It was a black man that designed all of that in D.C. and everything else. And now other people come here and paint a narrative of that. And so, that is the thing that I deal with. I deal with my people. I love my people. And that's what I do. And yeah, are there knuckleheads? Yes. But I know there's knuckleheads in every race.
Right.
And so the thing is that, and I look at, and I'm here to educate.
Yes,
I'm here to educate, to knock off the narrative and everything else. And I'm very familiar with a lot of races of people because that's what I do. That's what I do.
So we're gonna be wrapping up a little bit. Oh yes. So we're gonna be wrapping up.
Okay.
Any message that you would like to give to our audience?
I didn't thank Brother Clifton Bradley. I'd like to thank you also for extending your hand out for me to be on a prestigious show as this. It is my honor that I'm here. I'd like to thank you for that.
Okay. So thank you very much for tuning in today to Underground Railroad. And I'm your host, Dalia Tapia. But normally this show comes on Saturdays at 10:30 p.m. Thank you for watching.